This video is to demonstrate the teaching or lead-in techniques for Dirgha Pranayama. Jackie's going to start in a seated position here, and in a moment I'm going to ask her to lie down over the mat. Notice that the rolled up mat is a distance away from her lower back. The goal is when she's laying over it, the short edge of the mat here will be in line with the bottom of her lower ribs, and then the top of the mat will be supporting the back of her head and her neck. So to come down onto your back, Jackie, could you take your hands to either side of your body, extend your legs forward out in front of you. As you bring yourself down over the mat, make sure there's a bit of space between your lower back and the edge of the mat. Once she's down on her back, then I'll just take my hands and I'm going to slide it into the space between her pelvis and the mat to make sure that there is a bit of distance there. The purpose for laying over the mat is to support the vertebrae of the spine and to allow the ribs to be free, so the ribs can have complete range of motion during the breath. So to start, Jackie, could you take a few just natural breaths, inhaling and exhaling. And every time you exhale, allow your body to melt over the top of the mat, so your rib cage can fall around the sides of the mat. As she takes some deep breaths in and out, I'm just noticing right off where breath is happening and where breath is quieter in her body. Dirgha Pranayama we teach is a three-part breath, with breath moving belly muscles, moving into the side rib muscles, and then into the clavicle area at the top of the rib cage. So I'm going to invite Jackie now to place her hands on her belly. What I want to notice as a teacher is that her hands are placed slightly above and below her belly button, so she's not predominantly near her lower ribs. Her hands are well placed. Jackie, take some deep breaths in and out, and as you inhale, can you feel your belly moving into your hands? And as you exhale, can you feel your hands moving a little closer together as your belly moves towards your back? Continue to take deep breaths in and out. Feeling your hands separate slightly and move towards the ceiling on inhale, and then moving back together as you exhale. Do this a few more times. What I'm noticing as she's breathing is she breathing completely across her belly? Now the next time you inhale, Jackie, take a breath in and hold the breath in to feel your belly muscles pressing out, stretching across the front of your abdominal wall. And when you're ready, exhaling through your nose, let your belly relax, let your hands soften, and come back to a few natural breaths. Notice if that's different than how you were breathing before. For the second position, I'm going to invite Jackie to reposition her hands in one of three ways. The first option is wrapping fingers around the ribs with thumbs back and fingers forward. A second option that might be more comfortable for some people is to turn the hands so the fingers point down, the thumbs forward, and the pinkies back. This doesn't work for everybody's wrists and shoulders. A third option that you might want to consider is to take your hands to the opposite side of your ribs. This doesn't work for everybody either. It can feel a little constricting, but if there's difficulty in the wrists or the shoulders, this might be easier. So Jackie, find one of those three positions that feels best for you. Take a few natural breaths, and as you breathe in and out, can you feel the side of your body expanding? Now, as you take a deeper breath, can you feel a sense that your hands are moving away from each other, away from your midline, expanding your side ribs? And when you exhale, can you feel your hands are moving back towards each other? As Jackie continues to do that, the action I'm looking for is that her hands are moving away from her body and moving back towards. I also want to make sure she's not just lifting her hands off and replacing them on her body, that it's movement of her rib cage that's making her hands move away from center. Now the next time you're inhaling, hold the breath in, and can you direct the sensation of stretch and expansion into the sides of your ribs and your intercostal muscles. And when you're ready, through your nose, exhale the breath completely. And let your hands rest for a few moments and take a couple natural breaths, noticing any change after directing breath into your side body. Now for the third component, we want to bring breath into the upper chest. So for this hand position, Jackie, could you place your hands so your fingerprints are resting on your collarbones and you have lots of surface area of your hands across the front of your rib cage. Take a few natural breaths here and notice what kind of movement you detect under your hands here. Gradually let the breath grow and see if you can pull the breath high into your lungs to create more expansion across your upper chest. See if you can feel that expansion at your collarbones and at your ribs. Continue breathing out and in, trying to amplify clavicular breathing. After this next exhale, you'll take one more inhale and then hold the breath in at the top. See if you can direct the focus of the breath into your upper chest to get more opening across the top of your ribs. When you're ready, exhale, completely release the breath, and let your hands rest on the floor by your side for a few moments. Take a few natural breaths and notice how you feel now. Something else to consider with this, we ask the students to lie down for this part because some people, when they first start doing this, they can get a little lightheaded because they're bringing breath into new areas of their body. Now we're going to put the whole thing together. So Jackie, if you could, replace your hands on your belly like you did for the first part. We're going to divide the breath into 3 parts. So you'll take 1/3 of an inhale and then stop the breath flow. In the stop, you'll replace your hands in a new part. Another 1/3 of breath, pause, hands will move again. Last 1/3, and then you'll exhale and move your hands back to your belly. 1 long exhale, 3 parts to an inhale. Does that make sense? Okay. So when you're ready, exhale any air that you have remaining in your body. Completely empty your lungs. And then once you're empty, take an inhale, small, just 1/3 of the breath, and feel it in your belly. And then pause the breath. Reposition your hands at your position of choice on your side body, and take another 1/3 of the breath. Pause the breath. And now move your hands one more time to the top portion and take the final 1/3. And then with a long exhale, empty the lungs and let your hands move back down onto your belly. At the end of the exhale, let's repeat that. So you'll take 1/3 of the breath into your belly and pause the breath. Reposition the hands, take another 1/3 of the inhale and then pause. Reposition the hands again, take another 1/3 of the breath, and then exhale as you bring your hands one more time down onto your belly. Completely empty the breath here. Try that one more time on your own. 1/3 into your belly and pause. Eventually 1/3 side, and then finally 1/3 at the top. Long exhale to finish. And then try that one more time again. See if you can really feel expansion in each of those 3 areas. As a teacher, I'm noticing, can I see the expansion in the areas where her hands are placed? Great work. This time, after the exhale, repeat that again, but make the pause a little shorter. So can you take 1/3 belly, shorter pause as you move your hands, 1/3 side body, shorter pause, and then finally 1/3 at the top, shorter pause. And continue in this way. After the exhale, you'll repeat the 3 parts and see if you can make the pauses get a little bit shorter every time. Eventually, you might find you're just gliding your hands from one area to the next, still aiming to feel each of those 3 areas. Continue with a long exhale, always emptying the lungs completely. This time, see if you can make the pause barely noticeable between the 3 parts. You might find that your students don't quite do the wrap in the middle portion because they're trying to get their hands to move faster from one area to the next. Try it one last time. And then after this, we'll repeat it. And see if you can do it without your hands this next time. So you might just let them stay in one of the three areas, maybe the area that you didn't notice the most, or you can just let them stay on your belly or on the floor. Still focusing to have three distinct regions of breathing, still focusing to let the breath be complete. Try that one more time just like that. Three distinct areas if you can. And after this next inhale, this time still identify those three areas, but do it in a sequence that allows you to take an even bigger breath or a more complete breath. You might go back and revisit belly or side ribs after one of the other areas. Great work. The next time you breathe, see if you can hold the breath in for a few moments at the end. Try to let your belly get as big as possible, your side ribs, even your collarbone area. Hold the breath in, internal kumbhak. Can you feel the breath pressing out from the inside? And when you're ready, exhale completely through your nose. Let the breath technique release. And come back to a natural breath, noticing if your breath is different after that. It's important to let the students have a little bit of a pause before we transition from here, in case they did get a little bit of lightheadedness happening. How are you feeling, Jackie? Okay. So the next part of this will be to bring her up to a seated position. By lying down, as she's practicing the technique, her rib cage is more open to breathe because she's not using the muscles that would hold her supported upright to breathe. Right now, the structural muscles for support are just focusing on breathing here. To come up to seated, we want to make sure our students don't just sit up. So Jackie, if you could, bend your left knee and place your left foot on the floor. And as you put weight in your left foot, roll away from me to move over onto the right side of your body. Press into your left palm and your right elbow. As you press yourself up to seated, come on up to a comfortable seat. And if you like, you might choose to sit on the corner or the straight edge of the rolled up mat, so you have a little bit of support for your pelvis. You decide which of those two might be more appropriate for you. Once you're seated, take a few breaths in and out. Notice how breathing, natural breath, feels different in a seated position compared to lying on your back. And then when you're ready, we'll repeat those three areas again. So start by bringing your hands to your belly. And take a few breaths in and out. And notice what it's like to expand only your belly, just the first third of the breath. What differences might you perceive as you breathe belly by sitting up rather than lying down? When you're ready, bring your hands to one of those three positions on your side body. Again, fingers forward, thumb back, or fingers down, thumb forward, or the opposite side of your body. Try to breathe only in your side body here, noticing what this feels like. See if you can even feel that expansion up near your armpits, higher in your rib cage. And when you're ready, reposition your hands and find the top third again. Fingerprints on your collarbones. And again, lots of surface area of your hand so you can feel the movement across as much of your upper torso as possible. And then when you're ready, now bring your hands back to your belly. And we'll put the three sections together. So we'll do the pauses first. So after you empty, 1/3 to your belly. Pause the breath and reposition your hands. 1/3 to side body. Pause again, and then come back to upper torso, 1/3 at the top. And then a long exhale as you bring your hands again down to your belly. Repeat that a few times. Keep the pause a little bit spacious for right now, so you can find each of those three areas. And let your mind catalog any sensation that's different here seated compared to when you were on your back. If you feel comfortable the next time, after the exhale and your hands come back to your belly, make the pause a little bit shorter. Might require moving your hands a little faster. And again, you might find that your students don't go all the way to the side. They might go a little bit towards the front to get their hands moving a little quicker. Again, every time you go, let the pause be a little bit shorter, so you can let the breath become a little bit more complete. And perhaps this next time, you can take the pause out completely. Really focusing to fill and to empty. If that felt okay, maybe this next time just let your hands remain in one of those three areas, or just let your hands rest. It might be helpful to let your hands remain in the area that was most challenging to perceive, or where you felt you got least opening. Take one more breath after this. At the end of this, hold internal kumbhak for a moment so you can feel the pressure and stretch of having breath pressing out from the inside. And when you exhale, you can let your hands release all the way back down. Maybe close your eyes for a moment. Come back to natural breathing. Notice if your natural breath has changed after having done this exploration of Dirgha Pranayama.